So if you're wondering what the clapping is in good technology form, the receiver that this mic attaches to is not working, which is fine because I've got an audio file that'll be able to sync. But you ever seen the little boxes that they click when they start a movie sing? Part of the reason they do that, and now their technology is so advanced, part of the reason they did that, though, was so you could go back and match the audio easier, because it's a real pain. So one of the reasons we're doing the recording is there was, 5, maybe 6 people that weren't able to be with us today, and there'll be times that people have to miss. And so those things will be available to people to go back and review in case we do have to miss. All right. We are going to roll quickly. We have an hour and just under an hour and 15 minutes. But that's okay. I mean, we're not at a first time leadership presentation, right? I mean, you guys have been leading. And so if we get going too quick on something, you want more information, raise your hand and say, hey, can we pause there? Ask your question. Feel free to do that. And we do have one more. It'll be just kind of a self activity we'll do. So let's step into self-regulation. Self-regulation is such an important aspect of emotional intelligence. Because when our emotion overcomes our ability to reason and logic and respond instead of react, we've got to be keenly aware of that. To demonstrate this point, I want to share a story. About a year ago, we were in contract negotiations. We have 4 unions within the city. And we're coming into contract negotiations with the firemen. Traditionally, they've been good to bargain with, but they're a little more difficult to bargain with. But we just added 3 people to the fire department. When your department was only 17 people, that's a lot. It's a good expense. And we've done some other things with them. The morning of negotiations, we meet, we get our team together. We're going to go in, open things up, thank them, appreciate them, turn it over to what is their proposal. Now, on this morning, I'd gotten about 2 hours of sleep, and I hadn't slept much all week. Our 2-year-old at the time hadn't been sleeping well, had been sick. There was zero self-care going on. And I knew that coming into this that I was just not myself. So we come into this meeting, show up, try to deliver some good energy, thank them for what it is they're doing, how much we appreciate them. We want to treat them fair. We want to treat them fair to market as we work through this. And there was just a list of things. The 3 new firefighters was like the icing on the cake. And they drop a proposal with like 35 asks. And immediately what ran through my head is, are you freaking kidding me, you bunch of ungrateful and entitled people? It's not a good place to be. And it's not that they're ungrateful or that they were entitled. As it turns out, the leadership who came into that meeting didn't want to tell anybody no. To give you an idea of the other 3 unions, nobody came in with more than 6 requests, and we settled the contracts with each of them in one sitting. So I put on my poker face. I am just fuming, and I am just steaming inside. And then we asked the caucus. We go downstairs. So our team, it's the city attorney, the assistant director of public works, who are our assistant city manager, our finance director, our city clerk, and our fire chief. And we come in and we sit down, and our assistant city manager can read me like an absolute book. And he's like, you okay? And everybody else was kind of clueless because they didn't know me. Apparently, as I kind of checked and dialed in, like, how did I show up? How did I respond? Like, nobody else at the table, and we're all very close. They would have, especially the attorney, zero filter, great guy, absolutely love him. He would have said. So that's good. But then I'm like, team, I got to vent. And I did for about 5 minutes. Use some words that probably aren't appropriate from here. Like, I did not have my stuff together. And because of that recognition, we decided to just go ahead and reschedule, say, hey, we need some time to look through this, but go back up with some positivity and talk about, hey, we're looking forward to meeting the next time. So we pull that off. They have no clue that this hit us the way it hit us. We regroup. Theo gets healthy. We get sleep. We meet 3 weeks later. Now I'm rested. Know exactly how we want to communicate, because we do kind of want to call out the idea that they came in with 30-some requests. But because I had full emotional control, full self-regulation, I had planned it and wrote it out, we were able to confront in a positive way what had happened. And I started by saying something like, after the last meeting we had, we kind of sat and we looked through this proposal. And there's a lot in this document. Is everything okay? Like, yeah, what do you mean? And we started a dialogue. Well, are there problems that exist within the department that we're unaware of? No. Are there issues with leadership? Are there resources or tools or technology that you don't have? No. And then, with full emotional control, I said, well, then please help me explain what the hell this is. Because if I take this back to the city council, who just added 3 people to your department, has taken all these other steps, it's going to create a major problem. Your job as a committee is to dial in what's most important and come in. We agreed we were going to be reasonable and we were going to be fair. And it's funny, their emotional control and self-regulation wasn't completely under control. You could tell they were upset. And I said, you know what? Let's give you a half hour to caucus and talk about this and think about this. Specifically, Proposal 10 and Proposal 18. So we get up and we leave. And we give them the full half hour. Actually, we text them and told them we needed 10 more minutes, just to give them a little bit more time. When we came back down, there were bets about how this was going to go. A few people thought they were going to get up and walk out. I personally thought, I think these are good people who just didn't know how to say no. And now we've reset the expectation with them in a very professional way. And we have these relationships, right? Like, I wasn't meeting with these people for the first time. I have very strong relationships. I believe we start preparing for contract negotiations as soon as the last one is signed. The culture we create, how we support them, the relationships we build, this isn't something we prepare for in 3 months leading up. We went back, we walked into the room. The spokesperson of the committee said, hey, we're sorry. We realize how this looks. We're very grateful, blah, blah, blah. We've narrowed this to 10. We settled with them, within a couple hours. But if I wouldn't have had the awareness about where I was at going into the meeting, there is no way I would have been able to keep my poker face, to command my emotions, to control my body language and my energy, and it would have become a major problem in that moment. It had become a major problem in that moment. I tell the story, and I tell both ends of it, because if we got to choose between being liked and respected, we got to choose to be respected each and every time. But we can do that in a professional way as we lay things out. And you'll notice I started that conversation with them the second time through questions, right? And we gave them an opportunity to verbalize. And then sometimes we just need to call a spade. Authentic, transparent communication, direct, honest, but professional. And we were able to get that situation turned around really quickly. But it could have gone either way. And I think that's a good example just from my experience within the last year. because this is an area I normally don't have a lot of trouble with, mainly because of just the extensive training and stuff that we go through, and the situations we show up in are nothing like that. But these interpersonal things can be tricky. Which leads me to triggers. These emotional triggers are something that we need to be very conscious of. They were really heightened for me on that day and that moment because I didn't have good sleep. I was tired. I was irritable. It just had been a rough couple of weeks. But as leaders, we just need to be super clear on what our triggers are, when and how they show up. These triggers are like a personal alarm system. Something about our values, something about our identity, something about our needs has been violated when we get triggered. It drives this very strong emotional response. And so what we've done on the handout is we've listed out around 20 triggers. Criticism. I mean, there's a lot of people that are triggered just based on receiving criticism, whether it's constructive, whether it's caring, or whether it's not. Rejection, failure, lack of control, disrespect. This is a big one for me. I don't need anybody to pat me on the back or give me praise. When I was younger, I did. I just have realized as I've moved through the ranks that just isn't going to come, right? And I have a deeper meaning and purpose, and I understand who I am, and if I'm showing up and leaving it on the table, that's good enough. But when somebody openly disrespects the work that our team's doing or that I'm doing, I know that's a major, major trigger for me. Another one is a lack of fairness or consistency, which I talk about being injustice. You know, when I feel like things aren't right, when I feel like we haven't treated somebody in the right way, that triggers me. And I've got to be aware of it because I can't show up triggered. I've got to show up in the way that I want our people to treat other people. And so what I want you to do is I want you to look at these, and I want you to think about which one of these are your triggers. I want you to circle the ones, read through them, and I want you to circle the ones that are your triggers. And then I want you to talk about 2 or 3 situations. I just want you to write them down. And this is not something, especially because of time, that we're going to share with each other. All right? But I want you to write down for yourself 2 or 3 situations where you were triggered, where you had this strong negative emotion at work. And think about what was the event or situation. What emotions did you feel? What do you think was specifically that triggered it? How you reacted. Because when we think about these situations proactively and we understand them and we work through them and then we reflect, reflection is one of the best ways to grow our emotional intelligence, our self-awareness, to deal with these triggers. We're better prepared in the future. So let's just take 5 minutes, go through, circle what your triggers are, and then I think on the next page, I'll just leave the little exercise up here. And no sharing of examples, especially if they are from within the Accel family. All right, let's take about 5 minutes.